All right, here we go. All right, we're here with the new Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. Now, I enjoyed this one. I liked it. I thought it was
Yeah, it
pretty
was
good.
pretty good.
It definitely gave me a vibe from the very first one. Some of the camera angles they used, it was like some of the camera angles they used from the very first one. So that was a nice touch. But overall, I really liked this one. The action, the story, everything was pretty good in this one. I mean, I think this is the seventh one, huh? I think it
I'm
is
pretty sure it's the seventh
the
one.
seventh one. And at this point, you're just like, what else could they do? And then they
They keep it, they keep it to where it's interesting.
yeah. But yeah, overall, I really like this one. Everyone did a good job. Even the new cast, they did really good. Haley Atwell as Grace, and then she was a new addition. She was the main big new addition, honestly, because she's like her chemistry with Tom Cruise. They were pretty good.
Honestly, any female that joins the group is going to have good chemistry with Tom.
Cruise. We'll get to that. We're gonna get to that in a little bit because was this movie just more of Tom Cruise just risen up every female he saw? I was like, Tom, we get it, bro. You got it, bro.
63 years old, and he still pulls in ladies like nobody's business.
But yeah, so like I said, no, I really enjoyed this one. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I think I still I liked Fallout a little bit more. But this one's definitely a good addition. I like this one.
I really like the first one. I think it's because it seems like a old '90s because it came out in the '90s, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like an old kind of nostalgic '90s spy movie, and I like those kind of movies. But this one also, it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no, I really like this one. It was not a bad addition to the series at all. I really don't think. I mean, besides the second one. But even though it has its faults, but it's not that bad. But yeah, no, I really don't think this was a bad addition to the series at all. I think it's really good. Everyone really did their part. Everyone does what they usually do, and they killed it. But yeah, so like I said, we definitely recommend if you're a Mission Impossible fan and you like the Mission Impossible movies, definitely recommend this one. This is not a bad one. But yeah, so now we're gonna start talking about the movie.
Yeah, starting out with the first scene.
Opens up with a submarine. It is called the Sevastopol.
Yeah.
The Sevastopol. And I think it's a Russian submarine.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
What I really would have liked to see from them is I think they kind of go back and forth between like an American sub maybe and then a Russian sub.
Well, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even think that other submarine even existed. I think it was the entity.
But what I'm saying is like if they're gonna have like two different subs, make the Russians like actually speak Russian.
Yeah.
Like have them like have subtitles or something. That would just kind of clarify things a little bit better.
Yeah,
because I got kind of confused as to who's who.
No, I got you. But yeah, so they stay on the Sevastopol. Turns as a Russian submarine up, and then so that's when they go into the torpedo. They're locking the entity, as they call it later in the film. They lock it in this little room in the submarine or whatever, and then they get alert that there's another submarine around them, and
so like their initial impression of the entity is they're like completely hidden from all other subs' radar.
Yeah, exactly. And so they don't think anybody can like find them or anything like that. And so they're sitting there. Well, then they find another submarine, and they're like, "Oh, there's a submarine out there." And then like, "All right, we'll fire the torpedoes or whatever," because they see that they fire a torpedo, and so they're like, "Okay, let's fire a torpedo or whatever." And so they also fire one. Well, that torpedo that they're bracing for never even shows up.
Yeah, it never hits them. They're like brace for impact. 3, 2, 1. I guess it's not gonna hit us.
and so it disappears from the radar, and then the submarine disappears, and they're like, "Oh, it was never there." You know what I mean? And
shut down the torpedo. We don't want it hitting anything and blowing up.
Yeah, and so they try to shut their torpedo down, but it's not shutting down. And from the looks of it, it looks like the AI at the time, before they called the entity, is I guess took control and like turned and took control of their torpedo and made it reverse and come back and hit them. Which honestly, it's a risky move if I'm being honest with you, because that could take the entity out itself, honestly, if it blows up the whole thing.
If it hits the right part of the sub, it's
done.
Like, what if my thought process is, okay, so the entity's trying to sink the sub so nobody can get to it. Okay, I know submarines are watertight, but that's really not a long-term deal, because, eventually water's getting in there.
Yeah, exactly.
It floods the whole machine. Where's your long-term goal here?
But, that's that, and then the torpedo comes around, hits them, blows the entire crew up. All the crew goes into the water. They all rise up to the water, dead and everything. But, for information, to get to the room where the entity is, you need a key. There's 2 keys. You put them together, and it unlocks the door or whatever.
Yeah, they call it the cruciform key because it's shaped sort of like a cross or like a plus symbol. It's, a normal key and then a normal key. You put them, they fit together, and it makes like a plus.
Exactly. And so the 2 keys, you see them floating there. Well, then that's when we cut to our boy. We get to boy Ethan Hunt. He's getting his mission delivered from a rookie. Not really an important scene, just your usual,
He it's like the comedic scene of the movie, I guess. He shows up. He's supposed to be like an Uber Eats guy, I guess.
And so he's like kind of a rookie delivering the message, because he's like, leave it over there or whatever. Or you're supposed to tell me the secret code. A comedic scene, really. And then that's when the mission starts, and we get Kittredge back from the very first Mission Impossible. He tells them that they need this key or whatever, and Ilsa, for some reason, she's always getting into something, bro. The last 2 movies where she should be good, she always comes up with something to do, and I'm like,
Tom always saves her and says, okay, time to lay low or start working for the right people.
Yeah. And she's just like, she always doing something to get in trouble. I'm like, Ilsa, stop. But so she does that, and so there's a bounty on her for, I think it's for $50 million. I think it is. So they got all the best assassins out there trying to track her down, and so Kittredge is like, we need you to go get this key. Now, whatever happens to her, that's between y'all or you and her or whatever.
Your main mission is just to get the key.
Exactly. The main mission is just to get the key. So then we cut back,
or half of the key.
Yeah,
because she's known to have half the key, right?
Yeah, she's only got 1 key right now, and so then they cut to Ethan. He's in the I forget where they are.
They're in the Arabian Desert.
They're in the Arabian Desert, and Ethan he's following the assassins looking for Elsa. I tell you what, though, he got like the Ethan Hunt of all horses, because when he's like laying down on the sand, and the horse is also laying down with him in the sand, they're like,
oh, I don't even remember that. I guess he was so hidden I didn't even see him.
Like, they're both like the assassins are just walking by, they're riding their horses, then they cut to Ethan. He's laying on the ground. His horse is also laying on the ground. I'm like, I think he got the Ethan Hunt of the horses, and so
that horse is in the IMF.
And so that happened. And so then Ethan, I guess they're looking for or whatever. He knows, and so he gives his position away to Elsa to know that she's there or whatever. So then there's a big shooting scene because they. I
think they see him.
Yeah, they turn around and they see Ethan, and so then they start shooting or whatever, and so big shooting sequence, and then we cut to Ethan going inside where Ilsa's at. Ilsa's getting fighting all the assassins off. She gets shot, but then she shot one of the assassins too. And then Ethan walks in, and he finds Ilsa on the floor dead. And then we cut to the CIA. There's a meeting going down in the CIA headquarters or whatever, and they're talking about the AI, the entity. I forget when they call it the entity specifically in the movie, but from here on out, we're just going to call the AI the entity.
Yeah, they're discussing a potential AI, and then the AI, they try and like shut it down, and then it evolves itself. Yeah, I think that either the entity calls itself the entity, or maybe they're like, oh, since it evolved, we're just going to call it the entity. It's not doing it any good to call it an AI.
Yeah, exactly. So like, this thing is really smart or whatever. You can't destroy it. So what's the CIA's the bright plan? Hey,
we're just going to control it.
We're going to control it. We're going to get,
because obviously we can do that. It worked whenever it was made.
So that's what we're going to do. So then Well, there was this agent that was following around, and when I'm watching this scene, I'm thinking, is the AI, did the entity turn itself into a person, or is it?
See, that was my thought process.
Is it controlling
too.
this? Is this little?
Is he about to kill everyone in this room?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Because like every time they mentioned the entity, it switched to him, and I was like, did the entity like brainwash, like brain control? Like, is it controlling the person? What
he's being very like. They keep showing this one guy, and he's being very socially awkward. He's not saying anything. He's kind of looking around the room all shiftily.
Yeah, exactly. And so, then, like, he's talking to him or whatever, and it seems like Kittredge knows more about the entity than anybody else in the room. And so, then the agent hands Kittredge, he hands him a mask, and he puts the mask on, and then the agent throws this gas smoke kind of thing in the air. Everyone passes out or whatever, and then it turns out that agent, Ethan Hunt. I didn't see that coming. He likes his mask. He loves his mask, but I really didn't see that coming. Just the way, because like usually when they're wearing the mask, I mean, because they have the voice thing now, so it was just.
You'd think they would talk a little bit.
Yeah, and it was just like the agent was just being quiet, and the way it moved, he was kind of moving like.
Yeah.
Like he was like brainwashed or something. So that's what made my mind go there. And I was like, oh, okay, it's Ethan Hunt. That's pretty cool. So then him and Kittredge have a conversation in the CIA room. Ethan finds out that it was Kittredge who put the bounty on Elsa or whatever. So now he's going to track down and find the other half of the key. And he's going to try to destroy the entity itself. Kittredge doesn't want that. And he's like, this is whatever you faced before is far greater than all of that. And so and then Kittredge gets a call or whatever, and he's like, if I don't answer that phone, there's gonna be trouble or whatever. So he answers the phone. They're like, say something if you need help. He says whatever he needs, or hang up if you need help before I count down. He hangs up the phone, and you hear him start coming, and then Kittredge is like, how are you gonna get out of here? Turns around, Ethan Hunt's got Kittredge badge on. He got another mask on, and so he's gonna get out of there. And Kittredge
he
like,
shoots Kittredge with the trank dart, puts on another mask, completely slips out. Ethan Hunt shit.
Exactly. And so, are we surprised at this point? No, we shouldn't be. And so then that's when it cuts to goes to Benji and Luther meeting with Ethan at the airport. They're looking for. I think they're looking for the buyer. If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, they're wanting to sell the key. I don't know if I'm getting this mixed up with another movie. They're trying to sell the key and then follow him to put the two keys together.
Yeah, no.
So that they can go. They're trying to follow him to where the key's gonna where the lock is. They're trying to figure out where the key leads to.
Exactly, and so they're gonna track down the buyer. They're gonna give the buyer the other half of the key, and then they're gonna try to see what it unlocks or whatever, and then they'll take it. Something along those lines. And so it's the usual team without Elsa. So it's Ethan, Benji, and Luther. And so, but there's also two new agents. I don't know if they're IMF. I don't think they're IMF, but two new agents looking for Ethan. I guess on account from the CIA to bring him in or whatever.
I think those guys are government.
Yeah.
I think they're CIA.
And so they're trying to bring him down or whatever. And so they see Ethan on the cameras, and they're going. They find the guy that's on the camera. They turn him around. It's not Ethan. Luther is, he's messing. He's doing his computer things. He's messing with the cameras, making someone look like Ethan or whatever, while Ethan is looking for the buyer.
You see, I thought that was the entity at first, and then they showed the scene.
Yeah,
Luther's doing it. So
Luther, the entity. That's what I'm saying. There's Luther,
Part 2.
Luther versus the entity. That's a boss battle. And so, but yeah, so then that happens, and so then Ethan finds the buyer, and he's gonna go track him down, but then he turns around. And then he turns back around to the buyer, and the buyer he's not glowing because he's got these special glasses on that he knows that the key is on. And he looks back at the buyer, the key's not there anymore. So he turns around, and he's like, oh, what happened to it? And he finds that this woman took it, pickpocketed him.
She's like a professional pickpocket and snatched his satchel or whatever containing the key.
And so he does that, so he goes and he tracks her down because of his glasses. Classic Tom Cruise style, raises her up right off the bat.
Immediately.
Immediately. I mean,
Like
it's just like...
he talks to her. He's like standing maybe like 4 inches from her face, like completely as intimate as can be.
And he just oozing with the Tom Cruise Rizz. I mean, he is just... I mean, she is instantly falling for him. And you know, she tells a lie. She's like, I'm not interested. I'm like, stop. Because that's not what you're looking like. Interested. And so that happens. And so he's like, you're going to give the key back to the buyer. And because he takes a flash drive that has money on it. Like, I forget how much money. That's why
$4 million in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, because that's why she's doing it. Because she's going to take... She wanted the flash drive for the money. And because she has no idea what the key is. And so then she's like, okay, fine. So they go back to the buyer. She slips the key back into the buyer while the agents are still trying to chase down. At this time, they split up. And and there's also a bomb in a bag or something that looks like a bomb. Benji has to go track it down, and he's gonna try to what's the word I'm looking for? What is the word?
Like disarm
the bomb.
So like during this whole deal where Tom is like he's trying to keep track of the guy that is supposed to be like buying the key. He's trying to catch this girl, meet up with her, talk to her, try and get her to work with him. During this whole deal, Luther... Is it Luther that notices something, or is it Benji?
It's Benji. Benji notices the bag, but he's like, oh, never mind, it went away.
Yeah, he noticed some kind of... I guess it was like a radiation signature or something from the bag, and he's like, let's make note of that bag. And then they ended up following the bag. Benji... follows the bag. He says, "Okay, let's cut all communications with Ethan for a while. Let's not bother Ethan. Let's just do this on our own because I don't want him to lose the two things that he's worrying about. Let's just do this on our own."
Exactly. And so he does that. He finds the bag that he's looking for. And then he pulls it out. It's some kind of... Was it a nuclear kind of thing? It wasn't nuclear, was it?
Yeah, they had like a nuclear symbol on it.
Yeah.
You know, spoiler, they get it open. There's nothing nuclear in it.
Yeah, they have. It turns out it's the entity who put it in. Somehow, I don't know. It was Gabriel shows up. The entity's like right hand man, and he put the bag on there or whatever. And so then Benji gets it out. It's a riddle he has to do. And he figures out the riddle or whatever. He unlocks it. There was nothing in there. It was just the entity messing with them or whatever.
So like the whole riddle is it spells out his last name. He has to go through a couple verbal riddles. Like I don't even remember the riddles.
Yeah, I don't remember the riddles.
But everyone he gets right, it clicks a letter, and then the letter spells out his last name.
It was like you are done.
Yeah, you are done, and his last name is Done.
Yeah.
So then Benji's like, he starts to get afraid at that point. He's like, how does this even know my last name?
Exactly, and so but he disarms it. Turns out that it was just empty. But they tell Ethan eventually that because they're running low on time, and so they tell Ethan, and so Ethan's figuring out, and so when they tell Ethan this. It turns out that the buyer had been killed by Paris, another henchman of the entity that's working with Gabriel. So I guess she's Gabriel's henchman, and Gabriel's the entity's henchman. Yeah, and so a lot of henchmen in this movie. And so, but the buyer is now dead. So then Tom Cruise and Grace, they pick up the key back up, and he's following. He takes her with her, but then he gets distracted by Gabriel because it turns out that Gabriel killed someone that was close to Tom Cruise back in the day.
Yeah, in the first movie, his first team, whenever he still worked for the government.
I think it was even before that, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was like I think because they say I think it was before he was in the IMF. I think before he got the choice to accept the mission or not.
Yeah. The first movie, like his first mission, I think, where everything goes bad.
Yeah.
I think that's whenever he still worked for the government. I think that was before he was even IMF.
No, he was IMF in the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, they were IMF. Yeah, they have to be IMF in the first one. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
I don't know if I guess he was like a thief back in the day or something. I don't know what he was back in the day, but he was something back in the day. And the girl he was with, she just dies. Gabriel killed her, and so he gets distracted by Gabriel because he sees him in the glasses for like a split second. Then he disappears, and so and then Grace takes off with the key. And then the agents finally find Ethan. He runs away from the agents, and then we shift to Rome because that's the plane that Grace was on. She gets detained.
Yeah, she betrays Tom. Like she takes the key and
the flash drive.
So basically, throughout the whole movie, she's just, yeah, I'll work with you, and then steals everything he has, and then bails.
And so then we go to Rome. She gets detained. They find out that she's like all her passport. She's a criminal, whatever. They do all this other shit. Well, then it turns out, and then they're like, her lawyer's here. So they take her to the library. Boom, who's in there? The Wizard of Oz himself, Ethan Hunt. He's like, so they're talking about it. He's like, so they're talking in the library for a little bit. Well, then she's like, she says something about the agents, and they're like, he's like, oh, well, you could have said that sooner. So then they leave.
She knew that the two agents were trailing him, right?
Yeah, well, she saw him like when they were taking her to the library.
She saw him in Rome.
Yeah, she saw him in Rome. So he was like, "Oh, well, you could have said that." So then they had to hurry up and leave. He throws another gas smoke in the library. Makes everybody pass out. They leave, and so then we get a good old car chase sequence here with BMWs.
Yes, every car in all of the Mission Impossible series, even the motorcycles, they've all been BMW. It's always the newest model of BMW.
And so more BMWs this time around with the chase sequence. Which, I mean, of course, they're sponsored by them. So
has to be. They have to be sponsored by.
If they're not sponsored by them, they're just a big fan of the BMWs.
The bad guys are driving BMWs. They're driving BMWs. Until they get an upgrade.
Until they get the upgrade, because they're like, we gotta ditch this car. This car's no good. They got a new sponsorship.
Fiat
comes around.
Ethan pulls out his phone. We have to find a new safe car.
Yeah.
The phone locates a safe car with the keys already in it. I'm guessing it's like an agent car.
Yeah.
It's a little 2-seater small Fiat car that. There's no leg room. There's no headroom. It's just a tiny little, I don't know, the classic Italian car.
Yeah, classic Italian car. It's kind of like what's his name? What is his name from? It's like the little yellow car from Cars.
I don't even remember.
There's a little yellow. It's him and Luigi, the little tire changer guy. And if you remember, I forget what the yellow car's name is, but that's what the car looks like. And so anyway, so we get a car. And speaking of which, during this car chase scene, Tom Cruise and Grace, they are handcuffed together. So he's kind of driving like one-handed or whatever. So it's very hard to drive. And I mean,
I think it's like his right hand is like handcuffed to her left hand, so he can't really turn the wheel right.
Yeah.
So then they end up getting out, and then they change seats.
Yeah, change seats or whatever. And so that's a pretty cool chase sequence. And so they get away eventually. Paris was there. Paris gets in this big truck and like chasing her down or whatever, chasing them down. And but they get away. So then that's when we shoot over to. At the end of the chase sequence, they go down the tunnel, and there's a train, and of course it ends to a train. And Grace is able to slip away because she had a paper clip in her pocket, and from earlier one of them, the paper clip was on her passport, and so she unlocks the handcuffs. She gets out for free. Tom is still. She handcuffs Tom to the steering wheel.
And does she takes the key again? Doesn't she?
She takes the key again. So she has the key. And then, oh no! Remember, she put the key in someone's pocket before she got off the plane.
Okay.
And so I guess she went and found out whoever that was and found it again.
Oh, okay.
And so
she's constantly like taking things off people and then putting them on people too. Yeah. She's like, mental note: I gotta re-steal from this guy later on.
Yeah, exactly. And so then Tom has to hurry up, take the steering wheel off, or he's gonna hit by his train. Ethan does Ethan things. He gets out of it. He's the only American walking around with the steering wheel and handcuffs on his hand, and the police just walk right past him. And I was just like, I know Ethan's good, but I don't know if he's that good.
He blends right in.
And so, an American with the steering wheel with handcuffs on his hand. We see that every day. That's just the tourist around here. And so so then we go, and so then the team shows up to help Ethan because Ethan's like, he's like, what do I do now? Van pulls up, Benji hops in, he's like, Ethan, get in. Ethan gets in, Benji, Luther, and Elsa. He told Elsa, and Elsa's back alive. So we go back to the very beginning. Elsa was not shot. She was not dead. Turns out she gave him the first half of the key, and he told her to be dead. Don't come back, just be dead. And what does she do? A classic Elsa fashion.
She comes back.
And she goes, and so they're trying to figure out what the entity was. But they know they have to go to Paris because Grace told Ethan that he was meeting, that she was going to meet Gabriel at the, or I don't know if it was Gabriel per se, but she was meeting someone at this club in Paris. And
I think it just was the buyer, right?
Yeah, I guess the buyer, and so
because the buyer is Gabriel, right?
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't
remember.
I don't remember the buyer part of it.
They're just going to meet him.
Yeah, they're going to go to Paris or whatever because she's got to meet someone. Yeah, she's meeting someone there, and so he's talking about how they're going to stop the entity and stuff, and they're explaining what the entity is and who Gabriel is because they're like because they find out who Gabriel is because Luther can find him in the airport, but he found him through like a mirror or something because the entity was deleting him from all the cameras. Like every time he would walk past the camera, it would delete him as a whole.
It would like delete him in real time as if there's like static walking on the screen or something.
And so that's how they find him. So they explain, they talk about the entity for a little bit. They explain Gabriel's backstory or whatever, and they're like, "We're gonna help you, Ethan." And Ethan, classic Ethan, he's like, "No, I don't want y'all to help me.
I have to do this alone.
I have to do this on my own. And they're like, no, we can't let you do that or whatever. And then, Ethan, he storms out and he goes to the roof. And this is where Elsa comes up to the roof, gives him a hug, and she's like, oh, this is where Ethan, I don't know if I can believe what Ethan says anymore because Elsa's like, this is my first time in Venice or whatever. And then Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt says the biggest lie I've ever heard him say. He goes, me too. And I go, Ethan, this is not your first time in Venice. Why are you lying to her like that? And but yeah,
she eats up every bit of it. Though.
Eats up every bit. I mean, she's like hugging on him stuff. I'm like, even when the dude's lying, they're still coming to him. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so that's just part of the Rizz from Tom Cruise. Well, so then that's when we switch. We switch to Paris. Grace is at the party, and then she meets Gabriel there, and then Gabriel's like, oh, you can't trust Ethan. Every woman in his life dies or something because he always says he's gonna protect them or whatever, but they always turn out dead or whatever. She's like, oh, well, you're not the person I'm meeting, and then here comes Ethan. Ethan shows up, and he's like, Gabriel or whatever. He's like, Grace, don't believe him or whatever. I forget what he says in this scene. I really do, but pretty much like just don't believe him. And then here comes, and it's not only Ethan though. There's Ethan, Grace, Gabriel, and pretty much we're not going to worry about Gabriel though. There's Ethan, Grace, Elsa, boom, and the White Widow turns out she shows up too. She shows up too, and I guess I forget if she's the buyer, but she's got the other half of the key. She needs the other half though, and she's gonna sell it to Gabriel. So I think Gabriel's the buyer, she's the seller, and so they go. But the moral of this scene right here, though, the only reason we're talking about it is because this must be awkward for Tom Cruise because even 3 girls in one room and the White Widow comes onto him immediately.
She walks up to him and is just, I forget exactly what she says, but it's some very flirtatious stuff.
Oh yeah, she's very flirty with him.
So like the last scene, Elsa is talking about, oh, this is very romantic. This is my first time being in Venice. And then another girl shows up and she's saying some flirtatious stuff. And then obviously, he's trying to talk up this Grace girl too. So
Exactly.
the tension in this room, I don't know if there's more with the key or if there's more with Tom Cruise talking to all three women.
All three women. I mean, the tension is just building, and I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, "How are you gonna get out? How are you gonna get out?
How
of
is
this?
Cruise gonna get out of this? Who cares about the key?
Stop all the key talk. Let's get this women's situation figured out." And so then they go, and then Gabriel's like, "This is where it turns out like the entity planned for this whole meeting to come together, and the widow needs." Gabriel's like, I guess the entity's like threatened the White Widow. If you don't give it to me, you're gonna die. And then Gabriel's just like hyping the entity up. And then Ethan's like, no, don't give it to him. Give it to me, and I can destroy the entity, and you don't got to worry about these guys. But of course, the White Widow, she like gives in. She's like, no, I like my life. I'm gonna give it to these guys. And so
yeah, because he like threatens her. He's like, if I don't have the key on this train on this day, you know. I don't know how he threatens her. He's like, I'm gonna kill you. Or something
like that. And so, but it was just the fact that he knew that they were gonna be on a train. Like no one else knew that, I guess, except for them. And so then they do this thing, and then Gabriel's like, Ethan, one of these. The three women of his life, one of them's gonna die. It's either gonna be, it's not gonna be the white. It's not gonna be the White Widow. It's either gonna be Grace or Elsa. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, protect Elsa, bro. Like, this Grace girl, yeah, she's cool and all, but come on, Elsa, what are we doing?
She's been with you for much longer.
Honestly, that's what I'm saying.
You had to save her life once.
And so I'm just like, and so then it turns to a big chase scene, because then the White Widow's like, I'm gonna give it to them. So then Gabriel leaves or whatever, and then Ethan does this thing where he's punching the bodyguards, and he's chasing down Grace because she hid the key from the White Widow, and she put it in the White Widow's brother's pocket. Then she takes it back, she runs off, and then Ethan chases after her, and then Elsa goes, she leaves, she just goes, I forget where she goes, she just goes somewhere, and then Ethan's chasing Grace down, but Grace gets away, and then the agents also show up here, they're also at the party, they're also chasing Ethan.
Yeah, they commit war crimes, they tase people in France to gain access to a party.
Exactly. And so Ethan's chasing Grace down, but and he's getting the comms through Benji, but then it turns out it's actually not Benji.
Yeah, the entity is like taking over his earpiece, and he's feeding him like normally. Even in the other movies, he's like, okay, go down this street, take this next left, you're gonna want to jump through this window. He's getting all this information, and it sounds like Benji's voice, but it's not actually Benji. It's the entity. He's trying to lead him to a certain place, or he's just like trying to lure him away, or
he's just trying to lure him away from a case. Like, they're trying to make it not in time to get to the bridge to where Grace is going to meet Gabriel at, and he's probably going to kill her. So they're trying to stall him or whatever, so Gabriel can kill Grace or whatever. Well, so Grace goes to the bridge. She puts up a fight against Gabriel, and I'm like, oh, she might bite the dust here. Well, was I wrong about that? Because as soon as Grace is about to die, who shows up?
Elsa.
Elsa shows up.
This is foreboding a bad omen that's about to happen.
Oh yes, because man, when I saw him about to kill Grace, I was like, okay, they're gonna get it done. But then, as soon as he's about to kill her, and then he turns around and then he sees Elsa, I'm like, no, that they're gonna kill my girl. I said, do not do this to me. I was like, she's like the baddie of the squad, and now she's gonna die. And then she goes, and then they have a fight. Ethan is fighting Paris and another henchman in this like small little alleyway. I mean, it's small, and
it's like ass to ankles.
Yeah, and so
he's got a guy in front of him, and then he's got the Paris, one of the henchmen behind him.
Yeah, and so they're fine. He defeats both of them, of course. He spares Paris' life. He gets a pipe, but hits the pipe right above her head, and then leaves. And so
basically just to show her, like, I can kill you, but I'm gonna choose not to.
Exactly, and so then he hops over the gate. He's running to the bridge, And this is where we find my girl Elsa. She's bitten the dust. She is dead. And
Yeah, Gabriel like stabs her.
Yeah, stabs her. They have a cool little sword fight or whatever. I was just like, Elsa, why are we breaking a big old sword? Because she's got a big old sword. He got a little knife. I mean, you think she might win, but she don't. She bites the dust. Grace lives. From this, I was a little pissed off because I was just like, I liked Elsa. I really did. But
at this point, I think they were just trying to let's move Elsa out. You know, she's had her movies. let's put Grace in. She's the new love interest.
And so I was like, oh my goodness. And so then they take Grace. They're mourning Elsa's death or whatever, and then they take Grace. They tell her the plan of how they're gonna get the key or whatever. And at this point, the buyer and seller in this movie still confuses me because I really don't even think they were the buyer or the seller, because then they tell them about the whole train thing, about she's gonna wear the mask, she's gonna pretend to be the White Widow, Ethan's gonna pretend to be Zola, the White Widow's brother, and they're gonna make the exchange and they're gonna leave with the key and everything, and they're gonna find out what it unlocks. And so that's the plan. And Grace is like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. Y'all just met me and all this other stuff. But she accepts it anyways. And so, because she's like, can you protect me? He's like, no, I can't promise you that. And then at that moment, she's like, damn, okay, maybe I do. Maybe I can trust Ethan Hunt.
He's like, I can't promise you that you're going to live.
Yeah.
But I can promise you that I'll value your life more than mine. And you know where that goes.
That goes. If that's not Tom Cruise raising her up, I mean, I don't know what is. And so that happens. And so then I forget if it's at this point too. He tells her that she's probably going to be captured. That he's going to leave, and that she's going to get captured. But when they capture her, just tell Kittredge that you accept it because he's going to find use of you, and that you accept the mission or whatever. And so she's going to be like, okay. So she goes along with it. Well, classic IMF technology. They get the first mask done for the White Widow. Ethan Hunt mask, machine messes up.
Yeah, melts his face.
Now I don't know if this was their equipment or the entity messing with it, because it is technology. So I don't know if the entity had anything to do with it or it was just the IMF shitty equipment again.
My wonder is, like, the first 3 movies, all their masks were like extremely high definition masks. Why move on to a different machine? Because every machine after that, it malfunctions. I mean, some of them work, but it's shoddy reliability at best.
Exactly. And so then we cut to the train. Ethan can't go as the White Widow's brother, so Grace has to go by herself. So Grace is on the train. She knocks out the White Widow, and then Ethan is looking. He has a way to get on the train, but Gabriel he hops on the front of the train, kills the conductor and everything, and so the train can't be stopped. You can't stop the train or what.
Yeah, he moves the controls to make a max speed, and then he breaks that control, and then he breaks the braking system too. So it's at max speed all the time, can't be slowed down at all. So now Ethan has to find a new way to get on the train, and then because it's just moving too fast
for
him. He can't catch up to. He was gonna jump on it with the motorcycle, right? Or a dirt bike. He was just gonna jump on the train.
Yeah.
But it got to the position faster than he was able to get to the jumping point.
Yeah, and so he wasn't able to get on. So now he has to find a new way to get on there. Well, then it turns out that Gabriel and Paris, his henchman Paris, they're on the train too, and they're meeting with Dillinger. He is the he was the director of something. I forget what he was the director of.
He was director of the the CIA, right?
Yeah, I guess he's just director of the CIA. And so they meet with the director of CIA, Dillinger, and he just tells them that he knows where the submarine is to unlock where the entity is, where the key needs to go. And Gabriel's like, well, thank you for that. Slices his throat, kills him on the spot. Then he tries to go and kill Paris because the entity told him that she's going to betray them because Ethan spared her life in the alleyway. And so he tries to kill her. he stabs her in the stomach, and then he leaves. And so, or she starts shooting at him, and then he leaves. And so then Grace goes to meet the buyer who's going to get the key. Plot twist. It's Kittredge. It's Kittredge. And so he's buying the key from the White Widow or Grace. And then he's like, here's 100. I think it's 100 million. I'm not sure. Or maybe 10 million. I don't know.
It's a really large amount of money.
Yeah. And so, but Grace is like, she doesn't know if she wants to. Because she doesn't know if she can trust Ethan. But she doesn't want to get captured. And so she's just like, as the White Widow, she's like, this girl Grace, she did a job for me. I want you to protect her or whatever. Don't let anything bad happen to her. And so then Kittredge is like, okay, I'll agree to this. And then she gives him the key or whatever. The keys lock in. They work. They're the real keys. And so then all she has to do is type in her bank details, and she's got all that money in her bank account. Well, she pauses for a little bit and she doesn't do it. She's like, no, we're good. And she just gets up and
she clicks decline.
Yeah, clicks decline, gets up, and then snatches the key back from Kittredge that she gave him. She takes it out of his pocket and leaves. And
without him knowing.
Yeah,
right?
without him knowing. And so, but then, meanwhile, while this is going on, here comes the big stunt that Tom Cruise has to do. He goes off the cliff, and then he's got to go all the way to the cliff, ride the motorcycle off the cliff, parachute onto the train. While he does it, another Tom Cruise stunt, round of applause. Because, God, I feel like if Tom Cruise does not... I mean, he gives it all for us, bro. He gives it all for us.
Let's break down that stunt. So, like, the whole scene where he has to go up onto the mountain and then drive off of it, how much of that is real? So, like, does he actually...
I think he actually does. I think they built a ramp. I don't know if he doesn't go off... He does go off the side of the mountain, but they built a ramp. I think they CGI the ramp to look like...
It seems like with all the rocks and stuff, you want it as repeatable as possible.
Yeah, so I think they build a ramp, but then they transform that ramp into looking like a mountain. But they built it on top of a mountain though. So he's jumping off. He's going off a ramp off top of that mountain, and he's parachuting and everything.
Yeah,
he's doing it all. So I mean that's
so
all.
Like this is still pretty crazy scene. I mean you see so many action movies out there, you don't realize some of it's CGI and then some of it's Mission Impossible, where he's actually doing crazy stunts.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the CGI really doesn't kick in until the whole train starts. Once Ethan gets onto the train, I think that's when most of the CGI kicks in for this movie, and you can definitely tell because, and then like I said, so Grace has the key. They find out, they're like, go get her. So they're they're running down Grace on the train. She's about to give over the key, and they're about to kill her. Well, here comes Ethan. Smashes into the train.
Perfectly smashes into the guy that's about to kill her.
Smashes into the guy that's about to kill her. He goes out. Somehow the guy that was holding the key didn't go with him. I guess he dropped the key right before he went out. So the key's still on the train. And so then Grace is like, oh, Ethan or whatever. And then the White Widow's brother, I forget what they do. They knock him out or something. They do something to him. They knock him out. And then they're looking for the key. And Gabriel picks up the key. Ethan's got to go chase down Gabriel to get the key back. And and then, like I said...
Does this happen... That happens on top of the train, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Because once Gabriel picks up the key, he runs away and he goes to the top of the train. Ethan's got to chases him down, and he goes outside. He's like, okay, he went on top of the train. And so Gabriel and Ethan are flying on top of the train. And then Grace is trying to stop the train, but she got to the end, and she's like, "Oh, well, this can't be stopped."
Yeah, she just found out all the controls are broke. It's at max speed. In my opinion, I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, okay, just delink it. I'm sure they have some kind of tool or something laying nearby. Just break the link. The rest of it will just gradually slow down, which they end up doing that later on. But
yeah, exactly.
She has to wait for Ethan to tell her, "Hey, this is what you got to do."
And so, because she's just a pickpocketer, she's a pickpocketer.
I guess she is new to the whole figure out everything in 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And so Gabriel and Ethan, they find on top of the train. Well, the two agents were also there, and so right before Ethan is about to, because we forgot to mention. the entity is slowly going on that either Ethan's gonna kill Gabriel, and I forget what
to get revenge or not kill him.
No, because not killing him means that Gabriel's gonna talk and tell him where the submarine is. I forget what the second method is, because it's either Ethan killing Gabriel and then one other thing where it's just like where the entity wins. The entity has two ways of winning. Ethan's got one, and that's not killing Gabriel.
Yeah.
And so he's about to kill him, and I'm like, "Whoa, Ethan, what are you doing, son?" And then the agents show up, and they tell him to stop. He stops. He doesn't kill him, and then he's telling the agent, he's like, we can't do this right now. We gotta stop this train, or everyone's gonna die. You gotta listen to me. So they move everyone to the back of the train. Ethan goes to the front of the train to Grace. They can't stop it, so he's like, we gotta de-link it. So there's this big old de-link sequence where they hop onto each car over and over again.
The carts are okay. So a later on section of the bridge, Gabriel, once he hops off, he thinks he has the key. He hops off onto this truck. He detonates a bomb on this bridge. So as they keep going, eventually the train will just go off the bridge. Well, they de-link it. They de-link it too late.
Yeah.
Some of the cars start going off the bridge very slowly, but enough to where some of the cars are gonna fall into the ocean.
Exactly.
So they're on one car, it's slowly falling off. They have to move to the next car, it's slowly falling off, and then they finally get to the last one. It stops falling off, but they're like completely vertical. They have to climb up it, and Ethan, like, what does he do? He slips or something, and he's like holding on to Grace.
Oh yeah, he's holding on to Grace, and then
Paris comes and she like grabs his other arm. Turns out she's not dead.
She's not dead, and so she grabs him, she saves him, and then they go back to the other cart, and then Grace tells her that Paris is still alive, and it turns out the entity was right. Paris tells Ethan about the submarine and everything.
Yeah, she can only say like one word, and it's Rizz-possible.
Yeah,
like it's the name of the submarine.
And so she tells him that, and then Ethan's like, "Oh, submarine." Well, so then Ethan goes to his thing where he's gonna get to leave the train, but the thing he's using is only suited for one person. So Grace has to stay, and Grace is like, "That's okay, I'll stay." Tom Cruise jumps out the train, parachutes out of there, and then. But the only thing that bothered me. Nobody told Ethan that Kittredge was on this train, and I was just like, that's valuable information. Yeah. But anyways, so Grace finds Kittredge, and then she's like, Ethan told me that you would offer me and I accept. And he's just like, oh, okay. Ethan thinks I'm still trustworthy. He doesn't know what I'm doing here. And so then it cuts to Kittredge giving a monologue about how Ethan thinks he did something good for Grace, but he saved her a little bit amount of time before I guess they kill her. And then him and Benji just ride off and then it goes to the submarine underneath the water, and that is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Yeah. Overall, like I said, good one. I like this one.
Yeah, good visuals, good action. All the acting's pretty good, except for the kind of corny scenes where, Tom Cruise is flirting with the girls.
But yeah, like I said, for the most part, like I said, definitely a good one, a good entry into the series. Not a bad one.
A little confusing. I guess all of them got some confusing points, but this one, it had a couple confusing things. One of them was so the AI's helping Gabriel, but the AI's trying to get the key. I guess the AI wants the key to prevent everyone from shutting it down.
Yeah. I mean, but at that point, what if Gabriel decides to shut it down? You know what I mean? I don't know. And how would you kill him? I guess maybe it would find a way to kill him. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like I said, a good one. I liked it. I can't wait for part 2. Part 2 seemed like hopefully part 2, good. And so, like I said, but yeah, no, I really like this one. This was not a bad entry into the series.
What would you rate it? And
this one, I give it 8. I give it an 8.
8? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 7, maybe 7.5.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I see that. I see a 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I give it because it's a part 1, and I liked it as a part 1. Then we'll see how part 2. But I also had that same feeling with Halloween, and we saw how those movies went out.
Yes.
but this isn't Halloween though. This is Mission Impossible, and I have faith in the Wizard of Oz and Tom Cruise. So
yes.
I have faith in him. So, but yeah, can't wait for part 2. But yeah, if you're a Mission Impossible fan, check it out. It's a good one.
Definitely go watching. All right. See you in part 2.